How's it going, everyone? This is Rosalind, and today we're going to be taking a look at the latest trial, Bloody Moon Reborn. Now, this trial, I'm going to go ahead and put up front, it's dumb, for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's just a stupidly designed trial, but second of all, the requirements to be able to just survive the damage in the fight are absurd. With that said, this is the party I ended up going with for the fight. As you can see, I have a 2-tank setup, magic tank, and a provoke tank. I'm using a spirit damage a spirit-based magic damage attacker, and then I have a buffer and a healer. Let's go ahead and take a look at their gear. So my magic tank is CG Charlotte. You can also use A-Rain if you want to. The magic tank requirements are not nearly as high as some of the other characters in terms of what you need, so like even Bosch could probably do pretty well for this, but this is how I have her set up. Pretty good gear. Unfortunately, it's kind of necessary for this fight. Now I do have her elemental resistances up pretty high, but honestly, the most important thing for every character in this fight is HP and spirit. Now, as far as elemental resistances go, only your magic tank really needs them. Nobody else in the fight actually really needs them, since the majority of the damage the rest of your party is going to be taking is going to be non-elemental damage. So just keep that in mind. Now I have her geared for all element resistances. The only thing that's really important is confusion, but even then, the boss uses an ability that lowers your resistance to confusion, so even if you have 100%, you can still be confused. The other thing I have on her is I have safety bit, and this is to help with the inevitable AoE death, which actually happens twice in this fight. Moving on to my physical tank, I have Wilhelm. Now he's actually really not here to take physical damage, he's mainly here to take magic damage, but he also needs to take physical damage as well. I have seen a couple people who have done this using A-Rain as their provoke tank, and that does certainly work. You just need to make sure that their defense is high enough to also survive the non-magic damage they're going to be taking. So this is how I have him set up. Again, I'm not really caring about his elemental resistances. The main thing is I just want high HP, and for him, as high as spirit and defense as I can get him, because basically his entire shtick throughout this whole fight is to keep up provoke, and if he somehow manages to live a turn, to guard. That's it. Alright, and then my attacker, I'm using Silka, the Summer Folka and Citra unit, and this is how I have her set up. She is geared very well, again, high spirit, pretty good defense. These are the main things you're looking for here. You're going to be taking a ton of magic damage in this fight, and a lot of it is not coverable. Like, you're going to take it regardless. So having really high spirit is really good. I've seen people on my stream were always asking me why I wasn't using, like, say for instance, Ellie or something, and that's because Ellie will just get destroyed in this fight. As a bare minimum, you need to have 10k HP and like 1300 spirit, and even that, your unit is probably going to die multiple times throughout the fight, so you really want to have more than that. At one point I had like 11k HP on her, or I was using Citra and had 11k HP and like 1400 spirit, and she was still getting one shot multiple times throughout the fight. But this is who I use. Her main thing is going to be using either Summon Wave or Summon Sunshine, as well as healing the party with the Spirit High Tide, and every now and then using Spirit High Tide into her cooldown for even more damage. And then also, you want to make sure you use her Limit Break before you transition below 40%, so you can take out any ads when you do that. Next I have Aerith, and Aerith, I have her set up. I gave her the shield arm. This gives her more HP, some extra little spirit here. It allows her to equip a heavy shield. I just did this because I wanted to keep a better shield on my magic tank, so I gave her the Genji shield. And again, high HP, high spirit. Pretty common theme here. And then finally I have Nickel. Nickel has my lowest spirit of any of my characters, though he ends up living more often than not, surprisingly. But this is how I have him set up. Main important thing here is I have him with Pod 153. This is to get the physical damage reduction. So when I get into the video, I'll go on sort of the rotation I use for some of these characters, but this factors in this is very important to the strategy. Well, very important to living, I should say, in this fight. But again, I will get into that when we more get into the actual fight itself. So let's get right into it then. Alright, and here we are into the actual trial itself. So a lot of this trial is very similar to the original Bloody Moon, but then there are a few key differences. One of those key differences being there's just way more damage being thrown out. As I was alluding to during the gearing section, where I was talking about my gear and whatnot, I've had numerous times in this fight where I've had Wilhelm guarding, and I've had up 50% damage reduction from Charlotte, and I've had up 30% magic damage reduction, and he still died to some of the damage, again with other characters in the fight. But anyways, you're going to be going ahead, and the boss is going to start off with a 5-turn physical and magic damage reduction buff on itself. These cannot be dispelled, so don't even try. In fact, all the buffs in this fight can't be dispelled. You just don't even try it. Don't worry about it. Just suck it up and take the damage. You also can't break the boss or any of the adds in the fight. But as per the original fight, there's going to be a lot of magic damage thrown out at you, and Bloody Moon is going to be summoning apostles, these little adds. They have different elements like ice, fire, water, etc. Right? They do magic damage, but primarily most of that's going to be taken by your magic tank. You really don't have to worry about the adds all that much until sub 40%, and actually up until that point, it's almost better to have them alive because you can use them to get limit break stones and things like that, which can help prevent keeping up important limit breaks. I use it to keep up Charlotte's limit break and Nickel's limit break, for instance. But anyways, you want to make sure you keep up all defensive buffs you can. You want to have stat break protection on your characters. You want to keep a re-raise up on your provoke tank. And you want to make sure you have damage shields up at all time. At any point any of this stuff falls off, you will almost likely lose characters, and even with them up, you will still probably lose characters. So the boss has a number of attacks. It has a little ball of fire that falls down from the ground. This is physical damage. I believe it can be dodged, so if you use like Fenrir, for instance, to put up AoE dodge in your party, I believe that does work, but later on in the fight, I believe actually below like 70-ish%, the boss will occasionally use that twice in one turn. He also has another AoE physical attack that cannot be covered and cannot be prevented, so you just have to deal with that. That's the reason I bring the pod with me. In addition to that, it also has I believe another AoE magic attack that can't be covered. I could be wrong on that, but I know it has AoE magic that can be covered, as you'll see my CG Charlotte here covered that numerous times throughout the fight. And then one of the most deadly attacks, surprisingly, is this bombardment of single target magic that it uses every single turn for the entirety of the fight, and that is what my Wilhelm is there to stop. But like I said, Wilhelm is basically there. What he does is he provokes, and then if he lives, usually if he lives, it's through his guts ability, and he just guards and whatnot. Also, every now and then, one other thing I did that pushed more damage is I would use Aerith's Ancient Holy whenever I had a free turn to do that, like so if she didn't need to throw up another re-raise, or if she didn't need to throw up like a damage shield or something like that. I would use Ancient Holy, followed by the Silka's, the combo of the AoE Water plus her cooldown ability for extra damage. But, I mean, in general, what you do in the fight is very simple, especially up until 40%. So let's actually get into that, since up until that point it's pretty autopilot. Ads will be spawning throughout the fight. You can largely ignore them, but it's good to attack them. But at 45%, the boss is going to flip, and he's going to face you, but nothing really happens then. You don't really have to worry about it. What you need to really worry about is 40%. So when you cross 40%, the boss is going to use his AoE instant death on you. This, you just want to have a, re-raise up on your entire party, and you'll be fine. What you want to do, though, when you cross this, or right before you cross this, or whatever, you want to eliminate as many of the apostles that are up as you possibly can. And the reason being is because what makes the fight so difficult, sub 40%, is when apostles of opposing elements are alive at the same time. So if for instance, the Ice Apostle and the Flame Apostle are up, then a single target Berserk will be cast on one of your party members, and this is a 5-turn Berserk. If the Lightning and the Water are up, then you will take AoE magic damage, and you'll get 50% breaks applied to your party. This is the least dangerous of them because you can prevent the breaks, which is the most dangerous part about that, and the AoE damage isn't that bad. But, like I said, you're already taking tons of damage throughout this fight, so it could very well lead to you losing 2 or 3 characters. Then you have the Wind and Earth combination. If these two are up, you'll have one of your party members get snorted for 2 turns. And if the Light and the Dark are up, then they will cast single target death. This again is probably one of the easier ones to deal with depending on how you have your party set up, because if your physical tank, like your Provoker, has instant death protection, then he can't die to it, so you could actually just ignore Light and Dark if you're doing that. In my case, I didn't have that on my physical tank, so I had to make sure I got rid of them. But that's really all up to how you set up your party. So like I said, when you're getting close to about 42-ish, 41%, you want to basically set up for a huge turn to take out all the adds at the same time. I did this by using Silka's Limit Break, and then I did the big AoE combo, which pushed the boss and killed all but 1 add. You'll see this later when we get to that point. After that, I just made sure I was taking out all the adds that spawned as they spawned in the phase, while dealing as much damage to Bloody Moon as I could, and then obviously on the turns where there were no adds, I would just deal a bunch of damage to Bloody Moon only, and just did that up until the end of the fight. So, and that's really all it is. There's a lot you have to do. You're going to take a lot of damage, but in terms of what you actually need to manage as the player, it's a relatively simple encounter. I do know that some of the attacks come on certain turns, so like the AoE non-coverable attack, I believe it happens every 3 turns, and then after 25% of the boss's HP, it happens every 2 turns, and the AoE physical attack happens every other turn, things like that. But I mean, really, if you're just keeping up all your buffs, that's really about the best you can do. The last little thing I want to point out is that in addition to the 40% AoE death, the boss will again cast AoE death at 20% as well. So just make sure you have another AoE re-raise up at that point, and hopefully you should be fine. Again, this fight is incredibly difficult in terms of the amount of damage you have to deal with. So just keep your HP up, keep your spirit up really high, make sure you're not getting broken throughout the fight, and keep up any damage shields and buffs you can, and hopefully you'll get through it. It's about the best I can say. If you have any questions, let me know, as usual, in the comment section below. And if you want to see me attempt these trials live, be sure to follow me on Twitch as well as here on YouTube, and I will hopefully see you for the next video.